Our first question comes from our guest, Dena. Dena, thanks for joining us today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I was wondering, as a parent, I find it hard to communicate with my teenager. He used to be so easy to talk to, but now doesn't want my help. What can I do to improve our relationship, to give him room to grow as a teen?
Well, I'm going to look back to my teenage years and remind you to look back to yours, right? So do you remember what it was like to be a teenager? You know, it might be some years ago, but it's always very important to start looking at that when you're dealing with your teenager, and also to look at your motivation when you're working with your teen. So recently I saw a movie called 8th Grade. I don't know if you saw that, but it reminded me of what it was like to be a teenager and all the social challenges I had and body image. And it brought me back to an experience I had as a student nurse when I was 17. I was going to give my first injection to a patient, and he happened to be an 18-year-old, really cute boy. And he volunteered to be my target for my first IM injection. And so I had to go into the bedside and draw an iodine cross on his rear end so I could target the upper outer quadrant for this injection. But the instructor was right behind me, and she was screaming, "Shoot, shoot," right? And I had the needle up too high. And so the patient said, "Gee, that was really great. I didn't feel anything." And the reason he didn't feel anything is the target, the needle landed in my finger, right? And it was sticking out of my bone. So I remember feeling in panic. And with this, the instructor, she threw her hands up in the air and she said, "Too bad for you. I've had it with you. You're really bad at this, you know." So going back to that time as a teenager really puts you into that empathetic situation when you're feeling for your teen. So parents often need to remember that when the baby is born, when your child is born, you don't really cut the umbilical cord. You need to retain it for future use. Kind of like a reel when you're fishing and you wind out the line to let them grow, and then you reel it back in when you need to, when it's required. And I think this needs to continue until they can fly solo when they're young adults. Parents are very concerned that they're in conflict, really, because they want their children to be independent, yet they also want to prevent the risky behavior and the negative outcomes.
They want to protect them.
They want to protect them, right? The good news is that the teen brain actually grows to accommodate you as a parent. And you can really know how to deal with your children when you start empathizing with them. You put yourself in their place and you listen without judgment, and you're able to really support them even if they make mistakes, which they're bound to do. And in addition to that, you're teaching your children how to empathize with other people when you're empathetic. And this is really an attribute of an emotional, intelligent leader. So you're giving them leadership skills as well. And it's always important to leave room in their shoes to grow, because they're going to feel like they have floppy shoes on at first, especially when they're learning coping strategies as teenagers. And as a parent, you wouldn't want them to wear shoes that are too small, right? So as they begin to learn these skills and they start to incorporate them into their ways of knowing and into their lives, then they can be free as teenagers to grow. And it helps you as a parent to be free as well.
It's interesting. It's very interesting. It's a conflict, you know. Yeah, at the same time you want to protect them, but you want to set them free.
That's right.
And just, I appreciate your help and any help I can get.
You're welcome. And this pertains to younger children
Yeah.
And the child's brain really doesn't develop fully until we're about 25 years old. So
Really?
they have time to
25
grow.
years old?
Adult brain.
And do you feel like what's gone on in their teenage years, traumas, things of that nature, will affect them for the rest of their lives in that age bracket?
Yes, well, we see evidence of that in society, how you don't learn coping skills when you're younger, and it's reflected in your adult life.
So it's really the coping skills that's the main
To
thing.
learn how to handle any situation that comes along.
Right. Right. And part of that is probably letting them experience them for themselves first and learning, by making a mistake.
That's right. And they can feel safe and know what to do on their own
Right.
as they grow towards adulthood.
Right.
So
I
does that
appreciate
answer your question?
It does answer my question. Yeah, you gave me more. You gave me more. I appreciate it.